Hello, everybody. This is Ann Summa, and today I'll be talking about the 2021 Quarterly Colony Loss Survey. Just going to give you a quick overview. Bee diseases and deaths have become a significant issue over the past few years. A lot of the times we don't know the cause of these deaths or what diseases may be happening, and there is some major concern over the volume of bees that may have lost over these last few years. NASS does conduct the annual bee and honey survey. You may have worked on that in the past, but that survey does not measure losses or diseases of hives, and so we'll be collecting that sort of information in this survey. The project code is 115 Quarterly Colony Loss Survey. It's conducted based on 4 reference dates throughout the year: January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. Questionnaires generally go out about a week before the reference date, and there is an online reporting option available. The release comes out in August of 2021, and that will contain information from throughout the year, and it is called Honey Bee Colonies. So a little information about why we're concerned about bees and their losses of their hives is that bee pollination is responsible for more than $15 billion in increased crop value yearly. And these bees pollinate crops that make up about a third of our diet, so they are a very important component of the food chain. Did you know that 2 million flowers are visited to produce 1 pound of honey? And a hive of bees must fly 55,000 miles to produce that pound of honey. And while bees are considered busy, an average worker bee makes only about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. So we need a lot of bees to perform all of this work, pollinating our crops, as well as creating the yummy honey. Here I have a few highlights from last year's report. We've got the January 1 honeybee colonies were up 8% for operations with 5 or more colonies. And that's generally what we target here, are operations with 5 or more colonies. We get to report that honeybee colonies were up 8% last year. Varroa mites, as you can see here in the middle, varroa mites are the top colony stressor for operations with 5 or more colonies. And then a little more disturbingly is that colonies lost with colony collapse disorder symptoms were up 76% for operations with 5 or more colonies. Now, 76% may be alarming in terms of the number of, or the percentage of increase, but it is a very, very small number of operations that are reporting colony collapse disorder symptoms, so just keep that in mind. Moving into the survey, we start off with finding out if they own or control any apiaries. If they do, we'll find out how many colonies they've owned during the past 3 months. If they do not own or control any apiaries, we'll find out if there was a change in operation, find out if they've gotten out of the bee industry, and collect whatever information we can about what's happening with the operation. Moving into colonies owned, we'll find out how many colonies they were owned on the first day or quarter of the reference period. So on the first day, how many total colonies did this operation own regardless of location? And then on the last day of the reference period, how many total colonies did this operation own regardless of location? And of course, the instruments will all have those dates filled in for you. Next, we ask about colonies by state during the previous quarter. Were these colonies located in the state on the first day of the quarter? And if so, we'll ask more questions about that. How many colonies were in each state on day 1, or when they were first moved into the state, if they weren't there on day 1. And then of the colonies in item 3, how many were completely lost or dead out during the quarter? So of our total colonies, how many of them were lost? Continuing on with colonies by state, we're going to report for all colonies owned by this operation during the reference period again. Day 1 will refer to the first day of the quarter. We're going to report separately each state where the colonies were located. So we want to exclude states that were passed through, but we want to include states where colonies were located during that quarter. Next, we'll ask of the colonies in item 3, how many were requeened? We want to exclude any that were completely lost or dead out from item 4. We just want to have colonies that were requeened. And then of those colonies, how many received nukes or packages? And then again, we want to exclude completely lost or dead out colonies. Next, we ask how many new colonies were added. And we have some includes and excludes here that we want to go over. We want to include splits, newly created, and replacement colonies in the new colonies, but we want to exclude colonies that were reported earlier in 5 or 6, those requeened or nukes or packages. Next, we'll be asking during the quarter, did this operation sell or give away any of the colonies in column 3 or in that third section? We want to exclude packages and nukes created specifically for sale. If so, we'll ask how many colonies were sold or given away. Next, we'll be asking about loss. Did any of the lost or dead out colonies experience all 4 of these symptoms? So we're going to be asking, they must have all 4 of them. Little to no buildup of dead bees in the hive or at the hive entrance. Rapid loss of adult bees, despite the presence of a queen, capped brood, and food reserves. Absence or delayed robbing of the food reserves. And loss not attributable to varroa or nosema. So if any of the colonies experienced all 4 of those, then we can answer yes. But one colony will have to have experienced all 4. Once we find out if that was true, we're going to find out how many lost colonies experienced all of those symptoms. And that will be the answer for the total number there. Next, we're going to report by state on colony health. And we will report for the colonies affected. So now we're just going to be moving into individual things that could be affecting the health of the bees. Of the total colonies owned during the quarter, how many were affected by but not necessarily lost to varroa mites, other pests and parasites, diseases, pesticides, other things that they may know what they were. It's just not those 4 listed things that we have there, or unknown. They may have had a negative effect and are unsure of what caused that colony health issue. Lastly, we pick up any comments that they have about the beehives in their area, and then we're complete. We do want to remember that there are many potential relationships between different answers throughout the survey, so just be mindful of that as we're reporting across the different sections. We'll want to make sure that if we have colonies that were lost or dead out, that we address the section about all of the possibilities in the 4 categories that could be causing the loss. We want to make sure that that all of our math adds up, but there are some areas where we can report things happening to more than one colony. So there are some areas where things can be kind of, I don't want to say doubled, but one colony can be experiencing more than one type of symptom as well. So in the end, we don't want to omit anything, but we also don't want to double count anything. If anything seems unusual as you're collecting the data and there seems to be some confusion, go ahead and ask some good questions and leave great notes to help us out in figuring out what's going on with that particular operation. Some things to look out for. If they have a large change in their number of colonies they have from quarter to quarter, that's a good time to ask some questions, find out what happened. There should be some adds or some deletions or losses, so make some good notes about that. If we have a large number of lost colonies, that's another time to ask some good questions and find out what's happening there and make some notes. If a large portion of colonies received new queens and or additional bees, go ahead and make some notes about that if they have new queens, nukes, packages, etc. If we have double reporting of colonies lost, colonies receiving bees, or new colonies added, you want to look out for those specific include or excludes for those items because they are very specific about where nukes can be added or included and where packages and queens. So just make sure you're paying attention to all of those includes and excludes. If we have an inconsistent total number of colonies and then the sum of the colonies for each state, again, that'll raise some flags, so we want to make some notes about that. If we have the sum of the new colonies and new bees added but is not consistent with the sums reported for all states, that's something to look out for. Colonies that were exhibiting all 4 symptoms exceeds the total loss was reported. That's going to definitely raise a red flag. So we'll want to make sure that our colonies lost covers those that are experiencing all 4 symptoms. If we have losses or hives renovated, but then no problems were reported, that raises some yellow flags. And so go ahead and make some notes about that or ask some questions to find out if those were really why there was renovations of hives, but then no health symptoms reported. And then across each section, The numbers not necessarily will match up exactly, but they should be in the ballpark. So here's some examples on here at the bottom. If I initially report 100 colonies, but then the sum across all the states is 500 colonies, that's likely to be a problem. But if I report losses or that I had to replace bees, but then have zero hives with problems, that's another time when we're kind of makes you scratch your head and wonder why you were replacing bees if there weren't any problems. Got a couple of responses here if you run into some reluctant respondents. If they're wondering why they should report, that is definitely a great question. We want them to know that their report, along with other beekeepers that are selected, is the basis for unbiased information that tells us the true health state of the bee colonies. We want to provide accurate information as this helps reduce uncertainty and helps us publish more reliable facts on bee colony health. If I think my operation is too small to make a difference, we have a response for that as well. We can understand how it might seem that way, but all operations count, especially small operations that may have different characteristics than large operations. And together, many small operations could make a great contribution to American agriculture, as we said. In conclusion, this is a very important survey. It's in service to the bee and honey industry and then agriculture as a whole. When you think about all the commodities that are being serviced by this industry, NASS is the primary source of nationally representative data on all losses and disease prevalence. So we just want to keep that in mind. Now, we have noted that there may be some struggles that beekeepers are facing, so please be empathetic toward them and their concerns, and just let them know that that's one of the reasons that we're conducting this survey is to find out what's going on and to possibly address some of these issues. While you're getting ready for the survey, go ahead and practice some examples on your iPad. If you have questions, feel free to contact your supervisor or your regional field office. Thank you so much for listening and have a great survey.